Cruising above a small, charted, abandoned island in the Pacific, seasoned pilot Dwight's routine flight takes an unexpected turn when he spots a mysterious message below. As he glides across the island, his eyes widen in disbelief when he sees a giant "help" spelled out on the island from the sky. Dwight decides to descend, unaware that what awaits on the island will have him urgently reaching for his radio to dial 911. But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. He had flown over this same island many times before, but he had never seen anything change on it. Until that day, there had been absolutely no sign of human life on the island, and everyone knew that it was uninhabited. It was also said to be a very dangerous place, but nobody knew for sure whether this was true or a myth. Dwight decided to try to forget about all the scary stories he had previously heard about this island and find a place to land on it instead. If there was really someone stuck in there, he needed to help them. He looked at the giant "help" sign again, and there was no doubt about it. Humans must have made it. There was no other explanation. He immediately felt his fear melt away and make room for excitement. He was, in fact, going on an adventure. The largest part of the island was covered with a dense forest and mountains, but Ethan spotted a small beach where he thought he might be able to land safely. So he took a deep breath and slowly descended, getting closer and closer to the beach. He waited until he got close enough to be 100% sure that he could make a safe landing, and once he had confirmed that it was possible, he decided to just go for it. He took deep and steady breaths as he lowered his helicopter, trying not to think about all the horrible ways in which this could go wrong, and he let out a sigh of relief when he finally felt a bump, indicating that he had landed. "I did it!" he exclaimed, and he finally looked around, taking in his new surroundings. Ethan quickly shut down the helicopter and jumped out of it, curious about what he would encounter on this island. "Hello? Is there anybody here?" he asked tentatively. Ethan looked around attentively, trying to decide which direction to go in first. The beach was completely empty, and there was absolutely no sign that anyone else had ever been there, except for one thing. He found a knife, and it was covered in blood. It just lay there in the sand. He immediately grabbed his phone to call 911, but of course, he had no signal. He doubted what he should do, and everything inside him screamed, "Get off of this island!" But he knew he couldn't do that. He knew that he needed to help whoever was stuck there. He was scared, yes, but he asked himself, what if it was me that was stuck here, or someone I love? He took a deep breath and he made his decision. Dwight picked up the knife, wiped it clean, and stepped into the forest. He kept his eyes open and scanned the thick underbrush and towering trees that seemed to absorb his every sound. The thick forest was dark and the air was damp. It was a huge contrast to his surroundings less than a minute ago. As he moved closer, he could see it was a piece of fabric, torn and fluttering gently in the slight breeze. His heart quickened as he realized that someone else had made their way through here, and not too long ago. The campsite, when he found it, was a small clearing barely visible beneath the overgrowth. The remains of a fire pit were at the center, cold and abandoned, with a few charred sticks and a pile of ash. What had driven them to this remote place, and more importantly, what had made them leave so suddenly? Were they connected to the sign? In the midst of the chaotic campsite, Dwight's eyes caught sight of a journal, its cover tattered and pages frayed. As he leafed through it, the entries, written in a hurried scrawl, spoke of fear and urgency. While examining the journal, a sharp crack from the forest pierced the silence, snapping Dwight's attention towards the dense trees. This poignant message resonated with Dwight, fueling his resolve to find the author, whose plea for salvation echoed in his mind, intertwining with his own determination to unravel this island mystery. Methodically, Dwight returned to the campsite, gathering every piece of evidence he could find. The forest's hush seemed to weigh heavily around him, amplifying the faintest sounds. A distant bird call, the rustle of leaves underfoot, Moving cautiously, Dwight couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were watching him from the shadows, hidden observers in this vast green labyrinth. In the corner of his eye, Dwight caught a glimpse of something moving, a shadow that flickered and vanished, leaving him questioning his own eyes. This fleeting vision sharpened his alertness, reinforcing the notion that he was not alone on this isolated isle, surrounded by an unseen presence that watched his every move. As he continued, a quick movement in the distance caught Dwight's attention. A figure, elusive and fleeting, disappearing as quickly as it appeared. This sight sparked a complex blend of hope and fear within him, igniting a fervent curiosity to discover who or what shared this secluded environment with him. With a newfound resolve, Dwight set off in the direction of the mysterious figure, each step taking him deeper into the heart of the island. In a small clearing, Dwight stumbled upon unsettling evidence of a struggle. A makeshift spear lay abandoned, its point sharpened crudely. The presence of this primitive weapon hinted at a violent encounter, suggesting a tale of survival and conflict hidden within the island's silent embrace. Amidst the undergrowth, Dwight's gaze fell upon a small, empty child's shoe, its innocence starkly out of place in this wild setting. With the evening sky turning a deep orange, Dwight became acutely aware of the impending nightfall. As the sun dipped below the horizon, its fading light cast long, ominous shadows across the island. Dwight's path back became increasingly perilous, the encroaching darkness transforming familiar landscapes into a maze of uncertainty, where every step was fraught with unseen dangers. Finally reaching the beach, Dwight was struck by the profound isolation of his surroundings. Under the starlit sky, Dwight settled in for the night, his mind teeming with plans for the next day. As the first rays of sunlight pierced the morning sky, Dwight was greeted by an unexpected sight, a disheveled, injured man stumbling out of the forest. His appearance raised a myriad of new questions, adding another layer of complexity to the enigma of the island, and fueling Dwight's determination to uncover its secrets. The man's voice trembled as he recounted his tale of betrayal and warned of a hidden danger lurking on the island. His words were a tangled web of fear and despair, leaving Dwight with more questions than answers and casting a shadow of doubt over the already murky circumstances of the island's past. Dwight listened with rapt attention as the man detailed his harrowing ordeal of being abandoned and left for dead. Comparing the man's harrowing story with the frantic entries in the found journal, Dwight noticed glaring inconsistencies. The two accounts, each fraught with fear and urgency, seemed to tell different sides of the same mysterious tale, leaving Dwight to sift through the contradictions in search of the hidden truth. In an attempt to bridge the gaps in understanding, Dwight shared his findings from the campsite and the journal with the man. The man's reactions to Dwight's discoveries were a mix of surprise, fear, and, at times, an inexplicable familiarity. As the man's narrative unfolded, Dwight's skepticism only deepened. The stories he heard failed to align with the tangible evidence he had gathered. Intrigued by the man's mention of a cursed area on the island, Dwight's curiosity was piqued, albeit tempered by a healthy dose of caution. This purportedly accursed place, wrapped in superstitions and fear, beckoned him with the promise of answers, yet whispered warnings of the dangers that might lie within. As Dwight ventured deeper, the area seemed to pulsate with an eerie life of its own. Wandering through a particularly overgrown area, Dwight stumbled upon a concealed part of the island. In this secluded area, Dwight's eyes fell upon the startling evidence of a large-scale, abandoned drug lab. The discovery of equipment and remnants of illegal substances revealed the island's involvement in covert drug trading. This revelation cast the island in a new, sinister light, drastically altering Dwight's understanding of the help sign's origins and the true nature of his predicament. Realizing his isolation and the impossibility of communication, Dwight devised a desperate plan. He remembered the emergency flares in his helicopter's survival kit. Determined to signal for rescue, he prepared to make his way to the island's highest point, where he could send a distress signal to the outside world. With determination, Dwight launched the bright flares into the dusky sky from the island's summit. He watched them ascend, praying they would catch the eye of a passing ship or plane and lead to his long-awaited rescue. In a twist of events, Dwight uncovered the injured man's true identity. He was intricately linked to the drug ring that had operated on the island. This revelation upended Dwight's understanding of the man's stories, casting them in a new, deceitful light and reshaping his perception of their encounter. Confronted with the truth, Dwight realized the full extent of the man's deception and the danger it represented. The man's tales of survival and abandonment were a mask, hiding his true affiliation with the criminal activities on the island and placing Dwight in unforeseen peril. Now aware of the man's true intentions, Dwight felt the urgency to prepare for the arrival of the authorities. He strategized his next moves carefully, knowing that every second mattered in ensuring the man was apprehended and the island's illicit secrets were exposed to the law. As darkness enveloped the island, distant lights appeared on the horizon, a sign of approaching help. Dwight's heart swelled with relief at the sight, a beacon of hope in the night, signaling the end of his ordeal and the beginning of the island's reckoning. As law enforcement swarmed the island, Dwight watched from his helicopter, rising into the night sky. He reflected on his unexpected journey, the resilience of the human spirit in the face of corruption and deceit, and his role in unraveling the island's dark secrets. The experience left a lasting impression on him, a testament to the enduring quest for truth and justice